Okay. Okay, so good afternoon, class.
Good afternoon.
Okay, attendance. So today is April 19th. Baga,
Sir, present.
Kabuan,
Present side.
Aglubat,
Yeah, I'm here.
Aguilar, Aguilar, Duque,
Sir, present.
Gallegos, Gallegos, Galvez Adrian, Galvez Adrian, Goshan, Goshan, Jose Anjonil Yun, Jose Anjonil Yun, Manalon Mark, Maravilla Amiel,
Present, sir.
Maravilla, present. Mendoza Emil,
Sir, present.
Mercado Nil,
Sir, present.
Nares Joshua,
Sir, present.
Pimentel Vincent,
Sir, present po.
Turel, Turel, Balobar,
Present, sir.
Kalika, Kalika, Corpus,
Present, sir.
Gapi,
Present, sir.
Tayanto, Lasaga, Cristina, Leonin, Karen, Obra, Abafunda, Abafunda April, Group 2, April 19, Bakani, Bakani, Balsita, Bergantin, Borillo,
Sir, present.
Torres, Galvez Jelen, Gauna Marlon,
Present, sir.
Go Christian, Hagoot Allen, Hidalgo Romel, Ularbal, Liktawa, Limpayos,
Present, sir.
Limpayos present, Marzo, Nobiloso, Orpilla, Rimurin, Turat, Lacumus. Flores.
Present.
Lacumus, present. Flores, Micaela. Maniquez, Ira.
Present, sir. Present, sir.
Flores, Micaela, present.
Sir Flores, present.
Okay. Wait lang pa sa wait lang. Ayun. Okay. CS33. CS.
Sir, present ako.
Okay. Wait lang ah. Balikan ko yung attendance dito. Akamaka. Akamaka. Ngayaan Christina.
Present, sir.
Balik tayo sa group 1. Group 1, Aguilar. Aguilar. Gallegos. Galvez Adrian. Goshan. Goshan. Jose Anjunil Jun. Manalon, Mark. Mark Manalon. Turel.
Sir, present.
Turel, present. Kalika, Jasmine. Lasaga. Present. Leonen Karen. Tabapunda. Tabapunda. Group 2. Bakani. Balsita. Bergantin. Flores Moses. Galvez Jalen. Go Christian. Hagoot Allen. Hidalgo Romel. Hularbal. Liktawa. Marzo.
Sir, present.
Ulit. Sinong present? Marzo. Present.
Present, sir.
Noveloso. Orpilia. Limurin. Surat. Okay. And then for the CS Akamaka. Okay.
Sir, Aguilar, present.
Sino yun?
Aguilar, sir, present.
Okay, so I'll be checking your attendance later on. Okay? Wait lang. Okay, so let's start. Again, I'll be checking on your attendance later on. So, this is our last topic for midterm. Network security, more on the firewall, tunneling, or yung ports, intrusion detection, and so on. Firewall. So, a firewall is an integrated collection of security measures designed to prevent unauthorized electronic access to a network computer system. So, a network firewall is similar to firewalls in building construction because in both cases they are intended to isolate one network or compartment from another. So, we have firewall. So, basically, in all operating systems, they have already a firewall. So firewall policies to protect private networks and individual machines from the danger of the great internet. A firewall can be employed to filter incoming and outgoing traffic based on the predefined set of rules called firewall policies. So later on, I'll be demonstrating to you on how to create some firewall policies. Try natin mamaya. Policy action. So packets following through a firewall can have one of three outcomes: accepted, dropped, and rejected. So during your computer network subject, I think they have already discussed to you what are packets, right? Sa computer network. Diniscuss na to yung about packets and so on. Like. So for the packets flow, for the firewall, it's either the firewall can accept, the firewall will drop, and the firewall can reject also the packets. The packets are the request. For example, if someone wants to request for an information, then if that request will go through a firewall, the firewall can accept, drop, or reject that request. So policies used by the firewall to handle packets are based on several properties of the packets being inspected. So including protocols used such as the TCP, UDP, the source and destination IP address, the source and destination ports, the application level payload of packets, example whether it contains a virus. Blacklist and whitelist. So two fundamental approaches to creating firewall policies or rule sets. We have the blacklist approach. Default allow. All packets are allowed through except those that fits the rules defined specifically in the blacklist. So we have the pros, flexible in ensuring that service today, internal network is not distributed by the firewall. And then we have the cons, unexpected forms of malicious traffic could go through. And then we have the whitelist approach. So the default is deny for the whitelist. Packets are dropped and rejected unless they are specifically allowed by the firewall. Pros, a safer approach to defining a firewall rule sets. And then we have the cons, must consider all the possible legitimate traffic in rule sets. So later on, we will see, kasi we will create a policy later on, and then let's check blacklist and then the white list. Firewall types, packet filters, stateless. If a packet matches the packet filter sets of rules, the packet's filter will drop or accept it. So we have the packet filters. We have the stateful filters. It maintains records of all connections passing through it and can determine if the packet is either the start of a new connection, a part of an existing connection, or it is an individual packet. We have the application layer. It works like a proxy. It can understand certain applications and protocols. It may inspect the content of the traffic blocking, what it view as inappropriate content, example the websites, viruses, vulnerabilities, and etc. Yeah, so we have different firewall types. We have also the stateless wireless. In stateless wireless, I mean wireless firewalls, should I say? Sorry, firewall. The stateless firewall doesn't maintain any remembered context or state. With respect to the packets it is processing, instead, it treats each packets attempting to travel through it in isolation without considering the packets that it has processed previously. So, for example, here we have the client and then we have the server. So, meron tayong mga ports that, for example, for the port 80, if you can see my PowerPoint presentation, actually for the port 80 that is used for the internet connection for the web, yung 80. And then we have the sequence X. Uh, this line is for the request. If the client are requesting for an information of a certain website. And then here comes we have the firewall. And then if it is successful, then it will give the information that the client is requesting. So pabalik siya doon. And then acknowledge one, we have for the request that is, for example, sequence X, and then for the pabalik naman from the server to client that is sequence Y, and then acknowledge is equal to X plus 1 kasi successful. Okay? And then next for the acknowledge, uh, if there another request, second request for example, then it will just add for the in the previous sequence. Basta same client. Okay, with the same client, it will add one for the request, for the sequence, and so on the like. Okay? So allow outbound sync packets, destination port 80. Again, for the port 80 that is used for the web or the internet. Allow inbound sync acknowledgement packets, source port 80. Kasi we have outbound and then we have the inbound. Stateless restriction. So stateless wireless may have to be fairly restricted in order to prevent most attacks. So for example, we have the client and then we have the attacker. Here. Trusted internal network for the client, but for the attacker, uh, if we have the firewall there, and then we have the sync packet sequence Y, dadaan sa port 80 meaning it goes through a web or internet, port 80. So it will pass through to the firewall, then if the firewall knows that it is malicious, then it will block. Yan. So allow outbound sync packet destination port 80, drop inbound sync packets, and then allow inbound sync acknowledgement packets source port 8. Kasi we have the destination and then we have the source. Destination and we have the source. Next, we have the stateful wireless firewalls. Stateful firewalls can tell when packets are parts of legitimate sessions originating within a trusted network. Stateful firewalls maintain tables contains information on each active connection, including the IP address, the ports, the sequence numbers of the packet. Yan. Yung packets kasi, that is more on the computer network, how they transfer the data or information from one computer to another computer. They are using packets. Yan. We have the IP address, we have the port also. Yun nga, we have different ports when it comes to uh, networking. And even not only in the networking but also for the firewall, we have also ports. Example of ports, aside from the internet, you have the USB port, USB port, printer port, and so on. Yun yung mga example of ports. Using these tables, stateful firewalls can allow only inbound TCP packets that are in response to a connection initiated from within the internal network. Stateful firewall example, allow only requested TCP connection. So for example here, we have the IP address. This is the IP address, trusted internal network for the client. We have the sync request for the server. So this is the, for example, this is the IP address of the server. And then if successful, then it will go back to the client together with the information that the client is requesting. And then the client can request for another information to the server. But for the attacker, yan, we have an example a while ago for the attacker. Now, allow outbound TCP sessions, destination port 80. But if we use the firewall to set some policy, so for example, establish TCP session 128.34.78.55 and 76.120.54.101. So if you notice, we established, in this example, we established this IP address. And for the first IP address that we set for in the firewall is 128, sorry. Nakakona ko dun sa 192.168.0.0.1. Anyway, 128.34.78.55, that is the IP address of this of the client. And then the other one we have 76.120.54.101, that is the IP address of the server. So meaning you are just allowing allowing to enter the firewall those IP address. Kapag wala siya doon, if you have another IP address, then definitely it will block by the firewall. Baka kasi it doesn't it's not in our policy. Okay, TCP-based connection are easy to check. So we have the TCP sync packet, and then we have also the UDP-based traffic. Is not so clear. There is no UDP connection setup. Treat a UDP session start when legitimate UDP packet is allowed through the firewall, such as from inside or outside. Session is defined by the source IP, source port, destination IP, and destination port. Okay. I think the TCP and UDP it is discussed to you during your computer network. Application level firewall. So filter packets on the application data as well as the IP, TCP, UDP field. Example, allow select internal users to telnet outside. Basahin ko lang. Require all telnet users to telnet through gateway. For authorized user, gateway set the telnet connection to a destination host. Gateway relays data between two connections. Then router filter blocks all the telnet connections not originating from the gateway. Ito naman, they are using the gateway, meaning they are using a private gateway. Okay. Yan. So, example, we have host to gateway session, we have the clients here, and then we have the gateway. And then we have the application gateway, host to gateway session, and then gateway to remote host session yung palabas naman siya. And then we have the application gateway. Let's see later on an example of a gateway. Yan. Basta for the gateway, you can use a gateway in a public or in a private. But in this example, I think this is for the private connection of the gateway. Example, block user access to known porn porn website. So you can block porn websites, etc. Uh, check if the web URL is in a blacklist. Yeah. Firewall on Windows and Linux. On Linux, IP tables is used to provide firewall connection. On Windows naman, we have the Windows Firewall. So on Windows, use control panel, then Windows Firewall. And then we have the tunnels. The contents of TCP packets are not normally encrypted. So if someone is uh, eavesdropping on a TCP connection, he can often see the complete content of the payloads of this session. So one way to prevent such uh, eavesdropping without changing the software performing the communication is to use the tunneling protocol. In such a protocol, the communication between client and server is automatically encrypted. So the useful that useful eavesdropping is uh, invincible invisible. Cute nung kwan niya. Anyway, ganito na yan. For the tunneling prevent eavesdropping, the packets sent over the internet are automatically encrypted. So, for this one, for tunneling, they're using the encryption and decryption technology. Yan. So, for example, we have the client, and then we have the server, and then we have the TCP IP. Inside the TCP IP, we have a set of layers. I think if you still remember the network layers, yung physical, physical application, and so on the like, we have set of levels in the TCP in here, and then so it will pass through an internet, which is untrusted. Okay. For the tunneling protocol, does end-to-end encryption and decryption. So, in our previous topics about encryption and decryption, yan, we are using that in our computer network. Same. Yan. Encryption and decryption. So for example, if you are encrypting some record, information or record, you will be giving a specific, for example, IP address. So that uh, only the computer or the server or the receiver can only read the information. So pwede rin naman kasi you can encrypt or decrypt a message or information through it's either the application or through a device. Okay? Yan. So payloads are encrypted here in this part based from the TCP IP layers. So again, you can encrypt or decrypt your data or information through applications or through the device. But in this example, this is encrypted and decrypted using the devices. We have the secure shell SSH, a secure interactive command session. The client connects to the server via the TCP session. The client and server exchange information on And administrative details such as the support encryption method and their protocol versions, each choosing a set of protocol that the other supports. Example, check the SSH client software so to see what are supported. The client and server initiate a secret key. We discuss on this, the secret key exchange to establish a shared secret session key, which is used to encrypt their communication. I think I've already discussed to you the secret keys and etc. Um, when it comes to encryption and decryption, but not for authentication. So this session key is used in conjunction with a chosen block cipher. Cipher. So I've already discussed to you the cipher. Yan. So typically AES and 3DES to encrypt all further communication. Yan. So in connection to our topics about ciphertext. So the cipher technology or the cipher encryption decryption technology is also used in computer networks. So the server sends the client a list of acceptable forms of authentication which the client will try to sequence. Password-based authentication, public key authentication method. Yan. So it's either password or yung public key. A client sends the server its public key. The server then check if this key is stored in it list of authorized key. If so, the server encrypts a to challenge using the client public key and send it to the client. The client decrypts the challenge with its private key and respond to the server providing its identity. IPsec. The IPsec defines a set of protocols to provide confidentiality and authenticity of the IP packets. Authentication header, yan. When it comes to packetization, uh, they are putting some header. Yun nga, they call it the authentication header. So to provide during the encryption kasi, during the encryption and packetization, they are including some data. Like for example, yung header. Nagdadagdag siya ng data doon. Provide connectionless integrity and data origin authentication for IP data graphs. Provide protection against replay attacks. No confidentiality. Packets are still unencrypted. And then encapsulation security payloads. Provide confidentiality, data origin authentication, connectionless integrity, and limit traffic flow confidentiality. Port numbers are encrypted, poses change for NAT. Right. By the way, for if you will notice, if someone tries to do something bad using the internet, the government will they know what computer or where is the location of that because of the IP address. So take note that when it comes to internet, always the IP address is connected to that. For the cell phone naman, they're using the MAC address or any unique identification of your mobile phones. So for example, if you are sending a message through email, okay? Not only the message, but also some of the information of your computer and uh, of your network. Okay, example, the IP address is also sent uh, together with your message. Okay, yung IP address kasama din yan ng message. So, for security. So that's why if someone sends a message, then basically the government will know um, who is the sender. Kahit na gumamit ka ng um, any computers. Okay? And take note for the IP address when it comes to the internet, we have a internet service provider. And that internet service provider will give you a unique IP address of your computer unit. Yan, unique yon. No duplicates. And yan, so we have digital signature example. We have the IP address, authentication header. These bits, yan, we have the bit 0 to 7, bit 8 to 15, bit 16 to 22, 23, bit 24 to 31. Kasi in every bit or in our memory kasi, or in even in yung uh, binary, kasi it will be converted into binary kasi later on. Your messages, your text will be converted to a binary later on so that it can send your message to the other network or computer. Kino-convert niya na ng binary numbers. Binary numbers yung 01, 10, 01, and so on the like. So the first bit from 0 to 7, that is for the header. Yung bit 8 to 15, that is the payload length. And then yung bit 16 to 23 and bit 24 to 31, that is the serve. Okay? But what is important here is the header and then the payload length. Yan. And then also for the authentication header, we have the security parameters index or the SPI. And then we have the sequence number and then we have the authentication data. And then we have the payload na, which is our data or information. Okay? The authentication header. So this is the authentication header for the security. Yan. The ESP header, same. And then this one is we have the security parameters index or the SPI. Then we have the sequence and then encrypted data. And then padding, pad length, next header, and then authentication data. So parang they have a different structure from this one, authentication header, and the ESP header. Kasi they are using the encrypted data for the ESP header. But they are both safe. They are both safe. Virtual private networking or VPN. Virtual private networking or VPN is a technology that allows private networks to be safely extend over long physical distance by making use of the public network, such as the internet, as a mean of transport. So VPN provides guarantees of data confidentiality, integrity, and authentication despite the user of the untrusted network for transmission. There are two primary types of VPN. We have the remote access VPN and then we have the site-to-site VPN. And I think some of you already used some of the VPN. Sino na yung nakagamit na ng VPN sa inyo? Tapa? Ang bagal ng net. Wait lang kasi meron lang ako hinahanap. Anyway, hindi ko siya malap. Okay. Let's continue. Now for the VPN kasi I think some of you knows how to use some of the VPN. Actually, for the VPN, it is used for faster connection of the, faster connection in the network, computer network. But not only that, uh, it is also used for sending some information or data through the internet much safer. So, mas safe kasi pag gumagamit sila ng virtual private, okay, private networks. I think some of you use the virtual private network or VPN for gaming, right? By the way, some of the VPN, please do conduct some research about virtual private network because there are some VPN that are not legit. Okay? They can also use the VPN for phishing. Okay? They will get some information from your computer unit. Yan. So be very careful when it comes to private networking, virtual private networks. Okay? And then also, um, I've also experienced for the VPN for curiosity. I also use the VPN. If you will notice, your location will change also. Some of the VPN. Nagbabago siya. For example, if your location is in here in the Philippines, but if you will be using the virtual private network or VPN, yun, your location will be changed. For example, US, nasa US ka na. Okay, so yun lang. Be very careful when it comes to using these VPNs. Types of VPN, we have remote access. VPN allows authorized clients to access the private network that is referred to as an internet. Example, UCF, VPN, computer has internal IP when connected. Yun. Set up a VPN endpoint, network access server or NAS. Client install VPN client software on their machines. There are some hosting sites naman that they are using VPN also. Gumagamit din sila ng VPN for example, transferring your files, yung HTML files for example, if you want it online, if you are creating your own website for example, that hosting site or um, basta they are using VPN sometimes. They are using VPN, then they will give you the private network. There are some applications that you need to install in order for you to access their private network. Same technology, VPN technology. Site-to-site VPN solutions are designed to provide a secure bridge between two or more physically distanced networks. So before VPN, organizations wishing to safely bridge their private network purchase expensive lease lines to direct connect their intranets with cabling. Intrusion detection system. Intrusion action aimed at compromising the security of the target, confidentiality, integrity, availability of computing, and network resources. So we've already talked about intrusion and so on the like. Intrusion detection, the identification through intrusion signatures and reports of intrusion activities. Intrusion prevention, the process of both detecting intrusion activities and managing automatic responsive action throughout the network. IDS components, manager compiles data from the IDS sensors. Okay, sensors to determine if an intrusion has occurred. If an IDS manager detects an intrusion, then it sounds an alarm. It sounds an alarm. So, example, we have the IDS manager. Ano kasi, this one, usually, I forgot the name of that. Kalimutan ko yung pangalan. Basta, this is used for example, bank. Sa mga bangko. Banks. They have installed some of the applications that are connected to the central. I forgot the name. Kalimutan ko yun na yung pangalan nila. Yun lang. In banks kasi, sa mga bangko, they are using a security na centralized security. They will install some of the systems in the offices, and then once an intrusion or detection, for example, pag if the vault, uh, if someone opens the vault that is not authorized, then it will send some signal to the central, and then it will alarm. Yan. There are some system also that na automatic. It is connected to the police stations, yung mga banks. Okay? Yan. So for example, here we have the firewall, but for the computer, we have the firewall, we have the routers per network. So for example, this is the first network using the router, first router, then second router, set of network, and then third router, third network. Yan. It is connected to the IDS sensors. Okay? But this is the internet, okay? This is the internet. Then if someone wants to request, for example, someone wants to request for a message or information, then it will pass through the firewall. And then if in case that the firewall allows that, the connection allows that, then the second one is the IDS sensor. So it will check if there's a intrusion. Okay? How the system will know if there is a an intrusion? Um, yung header. They will check for the header, additional information or additional data that has been encrypted. Yun. And then aside from that, not only the header, but the public key. They will check the public key or the password. Yan. So those are the examples lang. How the system detects an intrusion. Possible alarm outcomes. Alarms can be sounded positive or not negative. So alarm sounded intrusion alert, true positive. This is bad reject normal. There is no intrusion attack, false positive. So mali naman. So no alarm, no intrusion attack. I mean alarm sounded false positive pero nag-alarm pala. Alarm pero no intrusion attack. And then we have the intrusion attack, alarm sounded, true positive. Okay? Normally, this is rejected. Yeah, this one, this is rejected. False positive, normally it will not alarm. But for the bad misattack, no alarm sounded, false negative. For the false negative, and then we have the true negative. Wait lang. Intrusion attack. False, pag false positive, alarm. False negative, no alarm. Intrusion attack, false positive alarm and true negative, no alarm. But that this is reject normally. But this one, false negative, this is misattack. Yeah. So these are the possible alarm outcomes. The base rate falsy. True positive rate is conflict with false negative rate. There's a trade-off. If uh, the number or hashtag of intrusion of all events, the effectiveness of an intrusion detection system can be reduced. In particular, the effectiveness of some IDS can be misinterpreted uh, misinterpreted due to statistical error known as the base rate fallacy. This type of error occurs when the probability of some conditional event is assessed without considering the base rate of the event. Okay. Based from the base rate fallacy. Yan. We have the true positive. Ano lang naman eh. Next. For example, suppose an IDS has 1% chance of a false positive and 1% of false negative. Suppose further, an intrusion detection system generates 1,100,000 log entries. Only 100 of the 1,100,000 entries correspond to actual malicious event. Among the 100 malicious events, 99 will be detected as malicious, which means we have a one false negative. Among the 1,000,000 event, 10,000 will be mistaken identified as malicious. That is, we have 10,000 false positive. So, mas marami yung false positive rather than the false negative one. Thus, there will be a 10,099 alarms sounded and 10,000 of which are false alarm. That means false alarm rate is roughly 99%. Type of intrusion detection system, rule-based intrusion detection, and statistical intrusion detection. So, rule-based, rules and signatures identify the type of actions that matches certain known profiles of an intrusion attack. Alarm raise can indicate what attack triggered the alarm. Problem cannot deal with unknown attacks. Statistical intrusion detection. Statistical representation profile of a typical way that a user acts or a host is used. Determine when a user or a host is acting as highly unusual, uh, anomalous way. Alarm when the user or host deviates significantly from the stored profile or that person or machine. Problem is high false positive rate. Cannot tell which attack triggers the alarm. So meron tayong mga problems or disadvantages for the two types of intrusion detection. Okay, and then we have report scanning purpose. Attackers need to know where a potential target is. Yeah. Kasi for the port scanning, um, you have to, kasi for the port scanning, we have a lot of ports to be scanned and you have to know, most especially for the attacker, they have to know first the ports that uh, their message or information will use. Kasi we do have a lot of ports. So attackers need to know where a potential target is. And then TCP scan use of OS system or operating system call to check if the TCP connection can be used, can be set up on a target machine or any port. Example is scanner Nmap. So see how Nmap works on department's heuristic machine. We have the single scan allow low level TCP programs to send a SYN or SYN packet without intent to finish the TCP connection setup. On receiving this SYN and ACK issue as RST packet to terminate. For the port scanning kasi, like I said, we do have a lot of ports that can be used. Like for example, for the internet kasi we'll be using the 8080 ports. For the network, marami tayong ports. We have 3300, we have also 8000 port, and so on. The like, there are also ports that the server application generates. If you notice, for example, in Python, ano yung ports niya? 8000 ata. For the Ruby, 8000. For the Python, they're using the port 3300. So, yun nga. So, the attacker needs to know where the potential target is. Okay? So that they will know how to attack. Okay, so for example, sa system, for the system, alas na. And from Python ka to. Python, HPY, and server. Check lang natin. For the Python. Ayan. Python is using the port 8000. So, for example, if in case that the attacker wants to attack this the system, for example, check ko lang. Admin adding condition form. Okay, so for example, this one, if the attacker wants to attack, we assume that this is a system. We assume natin na system siya. And then if the attacker wants to attack this one, they have to know the port that we are using. So for example, here, I'm using port 8000. Yun yung mga example. Okay? That is the port scanning. We still have time, yes. Port scanning, two-port scanning mode. Vertical scan, target numerous destination port on a singular host, example the Nmap. Horizontal scan, target the same port on many target hosts, effectively looking for a specific vulnerabilities. Example, worm, attacker conduct recon before real attack. Ang hirap niyang lalalim ng words. Okay, so that's all. And then that's for the port scanning. Next meeting, kasi more on discussion tayo today. So next meeting, I'll be demonstrating naman how to block some ports and some scanning. If we can use other application for that one. Okay, so that's it for now. Attendance, akamaka, wala pa. Bakani, Balsita, Bergantin, Flores, Galvez, Jelen, Go Christian, Go Christian, Hagoot Allen, Hagoot, Hidalgo Romel,
Represent.
Hidalgo,
Present Sir Hidalgo.
Hularbal, Liktawa, Noveloso, Orpilla, Rimurin,
Present Sir. Remurin
Rim, Rimurin present. Surat, Surat, Laskol, Bakani, Balisita, Bergantin, Moses, Flores, Galvez, Jelen, Go Christian, Hagoot Allen, Hularbal, Leonin, mamaya. Liktawa, Emil, Noveloso, Orpilla, Surat. Okay. Group 1, Aguilar,
Sir present.
present. Gallegos, Benji. Galvez, Adrian. Goshan, Carl. Jose Angelil Jun, Manalon. Kalika, Leonen Karen, and Tabafunda. Oh,
Present, sir.
Tabafunda present. Google Classroom,
Yunin, sir, present.
Leonin Karen. Oh, present pala. Sorry. Present. Oh, last call, Group 1. Gallegos, Galvez, Goshan, Jose, Manalon, and Kalika. Tara. Okay. So in our Google Classroom, bakit ay tipitin? So this is our topic, last topic, network security. Last week kasi we have yung Holy Week. So hindi ko kayo na-meet Tuesday last week. Anyway, and then we have the foundation day na naman. So parang 2 meetings wala. And I didn't yet give you an activity for this one. So big Wait. Okay, so I'll be giving you an activity for the web security and network security. Okay, assignment. About web security. Conduct research about web security. Okay. Note. Put it in a Word document, then upload. Sige, sige. Okay, sige. Class I'll be posting some of this. It's all about research lang naman. Okay, so do you have any question? Clarification? Ganyan mo na. Okay, so if you don't have any question, clarification, so see you next meeting. See you next week. Okay, bye.
Bye, sir.
Bye, sir.